Hi, everybody. This is Margaret. Welcome, welcome. My name is Margaret Pinard. It's the name of my channel, and you're on BookTube. Welcome to today's June reading wrap-up. And I'm calling it the cool down round because May was definitely overheated. So I just did my July TBR when I look forward for the month, and now I'm doing the June wrap-up where we look back. So that is what's in store. And as I just said on Twitter, I feel very prepared for this. So of course something's going to go terribly wrong. It's fine. It's fine. I read 11 books in June. I thought it was 9. And then I was putting the stuff in the description and kept adding and adding, going, oh, I guess I read more than I thought. So that's great. That's a good sort of average, above average for me. I read for 2 readathons, including one new release and several AncientTBR reads. So we're going to get down to those in a second. But just in case you're new here and are here for Jane Austen July and don't know me, I am a historical fiction author here to talk about books and as well as writing. And I'm currently working on a historical fantasy short story collection for 2022. So there we go. It's not peace sign fingers, it's crossed fingers, isn't it? So that is me, and let's welcome all the people who showed up. Barrett popped in to say hello. Anita did as well. AF Stewart. Nick, good afternoon, friends. Going to be in and out, but finally able to make a stream. So sweet of you to leave a comment. Thank you, thank you. John is here again. Hello, John from Australia, asking how everyone's doing. Lovely to see you again. Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, just after 4 a.m. here in Australia on Thursday morning. Oh man. Well, I hope you have an understanding day job or a flexible schedule, John. That sounds intense. Barrett's asking, can we count books we are critique partnering as books read? Because if so, my reading was epic. I would say yes. It's a book and you've read it, so definitely count it. Nick agrees with me. John is the MVP of the stream. Anita says I'm officially trying Jane Austen July. Excellent. I am here with teacup in hand, and my vague participation trophy for effort is that I'm wearing linen, which is a Regency material. I know that's a stretch. It's okay if you don't want to count it. Cool Gamer said hi. Jim's Books, Reading, and Stuff. Hello, y'all, is calling in from Georgia. The Tbilisi kind, not the terrible policy kind. And Barrett's wishing Anita luck for the readathon. All right, so that is all the July stuff that we're looking forward to. But what about upcoming things in the very near future? I had a few, they're down in the description, but just to bring them to your attention. Later today, in fact, at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be over on Nia's channel. Her channel is Vixen of Fiction, and we're going to start our Wednesday sprints for Jane Austen July. We're going to be reading, writing, productivity-ing, whatever you want to do. If you want to join us on her channel at that time today, that will be grand. We have double Sundays on Streamyard fun this week. Friday, we'll be featuring Desiree of Coffee Reading, Writing. There it is, Coffee Reading Writing. And then on Sunday, we'll be featuring Rachel of RK Stumblingbear. So those are both 2 folks from Authortube who are getting their live streaming muscles all warm and ready for some live stream events. So I'm going to be giving them the little tutorial. And if you are curious as well about live streaming, feel free to tune in on either or both. So that's Friday at 12:30 Eastern and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And in between, on Saturday, we have our monthly event. This time it's hosted by Barrett, Laurie, my co-host. Authortubers host karaoke. So those are all down in the description if you want to go through to the link and put it on your playlist for later. Lots of fun stuff coming up. So, all right, regrouping. That's the banner that I should have had up. This is fine. We're taking it in stride. So let's dive into the books. What did I do first? Okay, we're going to go through the readathon books first, which are Caribathon, which happened in the first 10 days of June, I believe, but I took the whole month because, you know, I like stretching things out and bending the rules. That was Caribathon by a couple creators, and I can only think of Comfy Cozy Up, and I can see the other lady's face, but I can't remember her name. Anyway, you can look back in former videos for that. And the other one is Pride Month. It's just reading books with LGBTQ themes and by LGBTQ authors. So I have 2 in each category, and neither of them overlap. Usually I try to do like twofers, but not this time. So let's take Caribathon first. And let me go down my list here. I've got a classic written by a Caribbean author from Belize, Z. Edgel. This book is called Becca Lamb, and it was written in 1982. So, bit of a Queen of Books You've Never Heard Of type book, I think. And I liked this book. It starts out with a weather event. What would I say about this? It's a coming of age story. It's very sweetly written. There's a lot of passages that reminded me of Zora Neale Hurston in the sort of like exploring life, reflecting about the heroine's journey, growing up, and making hard choices, learning things, and conquering. So I liked it. It was a very sweet story. Recommend it for anyone interested in learning about Belize too, because I didn't know anything about the East Coast of Belize, but I found this in a used bookstore and picked it up. So very good. Recommend. The other book I read for Caribathon was a much more modern one. It's called The Most Beautiful Girl in Cuba. It came out in 2021 from Chanel Clayton. Historical fiction. Yay. And this is written in 3 different threads about 3 women during the revolution in Cuba that happens around 1897 and the Spanish-American War. And some of the historical tidbits I appreciated because I could tell what was coming, but a lot of it, of course, I did not know, including what they called reconcentration camps, which the Spanish regime adopted during the revolution. So very interesting historical tidbits. What else do I have? Oh, there's also lots of nice zingers. So I love the historical tidbits. I loved the humor, the dialogue, and scene tension was very well done. With the 3 threads, there was definitely one that I liked more than the other 2. Of course, that's pretty natural. But that meant that I was like waiting to get back to that one. And there was the added bonus for anyone who is a Newsies fan that we get to see Pulitzer and Hearst in this book. And she talks to newsboys, one of the heroines talks to newsboys, and it's just like a little internal giggle. I don't know if you ever have those. It's not like an Easter egg because I don't think Chanel Clayton was trying for that, but really great historical fiction book. Definitely recommend. So that was a sort of either side, opposites, if you get what I'm saying, for Caribathon. So we've got Cuba and we've got Belize, which are very different environments and histories. We've got 2021 and 1982, very different like time publishing. We've got a girl growing up, and we've got 3 women who are, you know, married or almost married, a little older, threaded together. So it was very interesting to get such diverse books for Caribathon. So I didn't even plan that, but it happened to fall out in a good way. All right, let me catch up here. John saying, hopefully I'll still be awake for them all. Yes, I'm those. Just kidding. Yes. All right, John. John just followed Barrett's channel. Excellent. Barrett says, I look forward to hanging out with you around the community. I think we have some better timed sprints for Australia, so we'll have to look some of those up. Or you could always check Devin Cutting's channel for sprints that are around the clock every day. They're a great resource to tune in on a day, find a live that's happening. So if you ever want the company. Savion is here, Cookie King. Margaret is a national treasure and a wonderful connector. Yay! Thank you, Barrett. Hello, hello, Nick. Nick's pointing over Barrett. Thank you, Nick. Oh, people just being nice in the comments. This is what we need. This is what we should be celebrating this week. Barrett finally input my notes for you today. Love the piece for Savion. Is this for CJL or is this for like CP behind the scenes stuff? Katya's in the chat. Hello, hello. Katya also time zone disadvantaged here, although I think this is actually a good evening time for her. So sweet. Thanks for showing up. I just went through it. Check Instagram. Oh, and Barrett has dropped Devon's channel. So John, if you're ever looking for a live stream that is better for your time, Devon Cutting curates lists each day and like for the next 3 days of all the live streams that are running in case you want to do productivity stuff with people. So excellent resource. Thank you, Barrett. Okay, Caribathon. The next 2 reads for Pride Month themed reads are they both Libro? No, they're not. Okay, so one was for the Patreon book club, and so we discussed this in book club and had pretty similar feelings. So this is Creatures of Will and Temper by Molly Tanzer, and it was the queerer, we'll say, retelling of Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So it is set in the same time period. So you've got proper foppish behavior. You've got 2 sisters, one that's obsessed with sword fighting, which was kind of cool to learn about, but not super in-depth. And the other sister who's getting drawn deep into an occult circle. And yeah. So we both thought, because Allison and I talked about this, we both thought that it was very cute. It was a very good romp. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of swashes to be buckled, if you will. But there could have been a lot more, I think, consistent character or in-depth character stuff. So it was fun. It was action-y. It was fast-paced. But it was not, you'll hear for the next one what I'm missing in this book. So it was good. And it's a good sort of like on-off if you're going to do a heavy subject and a lighter subject. So this is your lighter subject from Molly Tanzer. Definitely enjoyed. Very, very good humor, fun stuff. And I will say I should have given the caveat first, because that's what a caveat is. I have not read Picture of Dorian Gray, so I may have missed whatever, connections were being made with the original, but that's as may be. And the other book that I read for Pride Month was, I have an overlay for this. Planning. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. And this was fabulous. This is one of my 5-star reads this month. It was so funny, first of all. So I know it's hard to translate humor across personal tastes, but like, I have so many bookmarks on my Libro.fm edition of this. Oh, speaking of which, let me pop this up. This is a Libro.fm audiobook that I listen to, and we love Libro.fm. If you're ever inclined to switch over to listen to audiobooks from the other place, you can get a free first book from the link down in my description. Let's see. So this book is about a young man who is going on his tour of the continent and gets into all sorts of, not conniptions, scrapes. Let's say scrapes. And he has definitely a devil-may-care attitude. It's in the 1700s, loosely. It's not particularly anchored to specific historical events, although we do have some things with the French crown happening and some things with the Barcelona separatists happening, so that could orient it if I was better versed in 18th century history, but as I am not, it was just fun and vaguely historical background, but also very accurate day-to-day historical stuff, like the clothing and the speech and the class differences and the traveling and all that. So definitely 5-star approve. What else can I say about it? The characters and their motivations. So whereas Creatures of Will and Temper was, I'm crushing on this person and it's just consuming my life. This was, I'm crushing on this person. I'm fighting the feelings. You're hearing the internal struggle. I'm messing things up. The plot is following this as well as other action outside the character's head. And it was just much more complex and like orchestrated. So this is what I really loved about it. Content warning in this book for abuse. Just for anyone who needs that. There is 100% angst going on in this book, which made it like, there's sweet, and then there's bittersweet, and then there's like angsty sweet for me. And this is like angsty sweet flavor of barbecue sauce. So loved. So good. Yes, I definitely recommend. So there's my 2 Pride reads. Let me revisit again. Come back to the chat here. Jim saying 10 p.m. So that's a good time for Jim, not too late. John saying, do you have any recommendations for books on mental health issues? If you're asking for nonfiction, I do not have a video specifically about that comes to mind right now. I'm sure other people might. I might take that as a request for making a video later, but I've definitely put in mental health issues books in my favorite nonfiction. So if you wanted to search my channel for favorite nonfiction, you might find 3 or 4 recommendations for that. Richard Holiday, Chaos King with COVID, just entered the chat. Richard saying buckles may have been swashed, but were timbers shivered. Excellent. See, he's getting into the humor of a thing. Oh boy. Oh, and Barrett loved Gentleman's Guide too, right? Like the angst and the, I want to say haberdashery, but that doesn't mean what I want it to mean in this moment. Barrett, Richard's still recovering. Yep. Hopefully staying hydrated. Either one. Okay, well, I think I will pin this and take it under advisement for later because it is off topic for any of the books that I have to talk about today, but I definitely have some to recommend. So if you search and don't find any, leave it in a comment afterwards and I will definitely look some up and send them over. All right, so that was our audiobook thing. We can take that down. And I think we have the pause for a moment for a question of the day. So I just did these 2 readathons and wanted to ask you what your recommendation would be for a Caribbean read or a LGBTQ plus read. So feel free to pop that in the comments while I go over ongoing offers. So in case anyone didn't hear the beginning, Sundays on Streamyard, it's where I host people on my channel and we go over the tips and tricks for using Streamyard or, you know, the very basics if you're just wanting to learn how to stream and get over those nerves, which I can totally understand. So we usually do those 1 Sunday a month, but because of demand, surprisingly, this month we're doing 1 this Friday and 1 Sunday. But I have the link to sign up for that. It's free. It's just a matter of scheduling. So if you're interested and want a little helping hand, that is now in the chat as well. And the other, which John asked about a few days ago, other ongoing offers, and these are paid, is helping me on Patreon. So I've got 4 tiers from helping my channel survive to bookish postcards to Patreon book club, which is what we read Molly Tanzer's book for. And we'll be reading The Door by Magda Sabo, which is a women in translation pick for August. So that is on the horizon if you want to sign up for that. And the mastermind thing that is like still in creation mode. So that is the Patreon ongoing offers thing that will go into the chat. And yeah, so let's see if anyone's got Caribbean or Pride reads to recommend before we dive back into the other 7 books that I read. Oh, Jim's recommending The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. I've definitely heard good things about that. I've heard some not so great behavior things about the author, so I just sort of took it off my list. That is controversial and, you know, up for debate if you want to do that. But that is what I have done because there are so many books to read. So Barrett's giving some recommendations here, standing in for me, some nonfiction mental health recommendations and fiction. Awesome. Thank you, Barrett. Anita has an indie rec for Pride Month, A Kiss for Luck, The Art of Lying, Book 1 by Isa McLaren. That sounds good. Art of Lying. So it's the start of a series, and it's an indie book, which, you know, we want to help support. And that sounds fantastic. Sounds like a rom-com. Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to jump back into other books that I've read for the month. Okay, so for this one, we get to pop this up again and go to the other overlay. So, Botanical, Curses and Poisons, The Shadow Lives of Plants by Fez Inkwright. And I'm thinking that has to be a pen name, but it's an awesome pen name. They have a different name on Instagram. I think it's Rose Daughter, spelled like the Viking way, Daughter. And they're fantastic. So this book was easy to listen to, but I definitely just want to go back and reread it because it's a great reference book. It's told in, how did it start out? It started out as a survey type of, this was how herbs and potions were regarded in this time in history. And this is how herbs and poison was used in this empire, and sort of skips around and gives you a survey of state of the world, I guess. And there's some interesting salient pieces about wild herb craft in there for anyone who wants to see them. And then it goes into an A to Z of poisonous plants, and poisonous as well as venomous, because they definitely go into the difference between the two, which I appreciated. And I just want to go back and I want this in physical form. So I did like listening to the Libro.fm version, but I do want it in physical form so that I can like page back and forth and look stuff up. And I also like the fact that they did little story time. There was a little bit of humor. There was a little like sly humor. It's a woman who read it, and so it was definitely like the wink of yes, this was the protest action, or this was what was done to get in power, and their tone is very enjoyable. So definitely recommend this. Can't remember if I gave it 5 stars, but if I didn't, it was very close. So yeah, Botanical, Curses and Poisons. And that is my other Libro. Then we've got indie and small press and new releases. Okay, so this is a fun one. Oh, it's not a rom-com. It's a light crime caper. Excellent. Thank you, Anita. Oh, Barrett's got the Rex. Oh, he's got the middle grade Rex. Okay, so LGBT middle grade fiction. We've got Rick, Hurricane Child, George, or Melissa, depending on the edition. Intriguing. The Insiders, Cattywampus, Small Town Pride, and the Civil War of Amos Abernathy. I love that title. I don't think I've heard of most of these, so that's great. Middle grade reads, always good for other age groups too. Let's see. Indie small press. So, oh, okay, let me open this one up. This is the ebook that I read for this month. Ta-da! By our very own, oh, there's my ring light. S.T. Houston's Blood of the Lily, Clash of Goddesses, Book 1. So I've had this for several months, and I finally got to it last month. So this beautiful cover is written by our friend Shannon at S.T. Houston, and she is an indie writer. So it's 2021 book. It is an ebook. I loved the full cast of what I would call in my Hobbit voice, tricksy characters. I love the fact that I have such faith in the accuracy of the mythology, because Shannon knows her stuff, and she's definitely woven in old characteristics of gods and goddesses with sort of modern sensibilities of characters and tension. She's also mixed Greek gods and goddesses with Celtic gods and goddesses, which is like fun to just throw them in together and see what happens. And I'm excited for that in the rest of the series. What else? I took notes so that I wouldn't get lost here. I thought that some of the writing was a little younger, like more middle grade, and I thought some of the writing was more new adult in the terms of like the sexual tension or the way that they called body parts. And so I was going back and forth and what I would categorize it as, and I'm not sure. So I would say that it's definitely got short chapters, sort of action orientation, but also pairs that with internal feelings being discussed and processed, which is great and healthy. And so, yeah, I really liked Blood of the Lily and definitely recommend that. For action adventure, people who like straightforward writing and, you know, little bits of not sly humor, because that was the other book. What would I characterize this humor as? Tricksy. It's like there's a spirit of tricksy hobbitses. I mean, it's hard to get away from when you have a leprechaun as your like first main character. So, and I liked the relationship between the sisters, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that as well in the rest of the series. So, go Shannon, good job, and I'm glad I got to read this book finally. And I had a question. Let's see, the satisfying resolution was very satisfying, but the title, The Blood of the Lily, Blood of the Lily, there's no the. I was wondering what the blood referred to. So maybe it'll come in later, or maybe I just missed something entirely. But yeah, that was great. So I did finally get to read one of my friend's books, and that was very exciting. Yay, Shannon. Barrett says, sorry for the kidlit bit, but that's 90% of what I read. It's all good. We've all got our preferences, right? Way to go, Shannon. Excellent. Books by Adrian's here. Hello, hello. Barrett, when has Barrett not been super busy? True. Blood to mean bloodline. Oh, okay. Okay. Because I was looking for something like where her blood makes something happen, and that isn't part of the story or the myth. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. Spoilers. I just said satisfying resolution. No spoilers. I have the banner ready just in case, but I think we're good. I think we danced around that line. All right. And so let's see. Indie Small Press. Oh, the other Indie Small Press was Spirit Things. I know it's kind of hard to see, by Lara Messersmith-Glavin. So this is another friend who has published at the Small Press, and it's a memoir in essays. So Lara's in my writing group in Portland, and she wrote some similar material to this like 5 years ago when I was in the group and she was in the group, and neither of us are anymore. But I was waiting and waiting and waiting for that essay or that topic to come through, and it came through in a different format here. So I was super excited. This just came out last month or the month before, so I read it right away. How do I describe this so that it's enticing? Let's see, 2022. My first comment is that it's kind of like Aurelius's Meditations. It's like a Roman book of essays about the nature of life and this person's experiences, which I eat up like candy. This includes Lara's experiences, such as growing up on an Alaska fishing boat, her interactions and relationships with family members and people she grew up around, science and folklore, neurodivergence, which she goes into at length and fearlessly, environmental catastrophe, which was a chilling chapter, just so much stuff. So if you heard me talk about, oh gosh, Moss, what's the Moss book called by Dr. Kimmerer? Anyway, if you heard me talk about that book that was like winding so many different threads together that were just like brain candy, that's kind of what this is. So it's lyrical. She's also a poet, so the language and the writing is off the hook, if I can say that about good writing. Have an oxymoron there. They're essays with a thing. So Spirit Thing is like she's using that to anchor each chapter or essay. It starts with a thing, but then wraps the life experiences and memories around it so that it's kind of like a kelp forest, to have another oceanic metaphor. And so I've got actually 2 readings in this one that I thought would give you a good idea. It's a great summer book. It's a great dreamy, drifty, reflective, nature memoir-y kind of read. So let me just read from the Wave chapter, which is one of my favorites, just a paragraph. Apologies for the Harley Davidson outside. When we anchored up at night in a bay or a lagoon, protected from the swell, I would listen to the water lapping against the fiberglass hull by my head. Some nights the gentle slosh and lick was another comfort, a rhythmic patter like slow rain. But most nights that sound whispered to me, invoking darkness far denser and frightening than the sky could hold. It was a cold sound, a reaching one. Every wavelet felt like a hand snaking up from the depths to taunt me, striking against the hull right where my face, my torso, and limbs were on the other side. Rather than reminding me of the safety of the boat, the sounds of the waterline accentuated the thinness of the barrier between my body and the impossible depths that lay below it, as if the waves were only toying with us, great hands gently rolling an egg back and forth between their palms. At any moment, they could crush our protective shell at will. Slap, slosh, slap. Those sounds pulled me to sleep at night downward, so that rest became an act of surrender to a great bottomless fear. Like someone who can access the child memory of sleeping at a part of the boat and falling asleep to the ocean against the outside of the boat, that's amazing. So I just love that. And then second little reading quote is from the Shell chapter, another favorite chapter, and that's how they start. She does like a little illustration. I think the illustrations are by Roger. What's his name? At the beginning. Illustrations by Roger Pete. Okay, so the Shell chapter. Yes. Yes? Is that the other one that I turned down? I think so. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. When the land and the ocean meet, they speak with many voices and arrive in many moods. Standing on the shore, I imagine the babble and pigeons of trade routes intersecting, the polyglot marketplace hubbub of crossroads, water travelers coming to trade with the people of stone and the couriers of wind. No 2 beaches sound exactly the same. Some waves gnaw at the sand, crunching it ever finer and swallowing it back with the tide. Others hurl their shoulders against the pits and crags of rocks, gathering and exploding in rhythmic smash. Some creep up the stony edge with myriad wet fingers, then hiss in retreat, tumbling small stones as they slide. Underfoot, some beaches tick and chime as their stones roll and strike. Others clatter like handfuls of coins. Still others whisper as their sand is tossed in the wind, or hush and squelch as they cave and flood with every footstep. Like, it's so good. It's so good. I can't get enough of Laura's writing. Okay. And then finally, just like the meaning of the piece for that same chapter, which is Shell. Jugs, hooks, bits of line, mysterious shaped pieces of metal, healthy lengths of cord, old floats and buoys. So much returns to the shore that can be used again. What we choose to scavenge says so much about us, about what we value and find precious and worth rescuing. And that is like the whole point of the book for me, because this is like scavenging your life of meaning and putting it in objects and wrapping it in beautiful prose. So 5 stars, recommend. Link to buy in the description. There we go. Okay, so those are my indie picks. Let me revisit the chat again to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out. I think that's about the reading that I did. Yeah. Like the stream. Thank you, Adrian. I forgot to say that when I paused and gave you the question of the day. John saying, thank you for all the amazing suggestions. Really struggling with mental health issues. So yes, definitely reading helps, but also talking to people in real life, getting some rest, keeping yourself healthy. I'll see if we can get any more recommendations for resources in the comments afterwards. JC is here. Hello, hello. Wait, did I miss the whole thing? Hey, Margaret. Hello. No, we're about 2/3 through. I've got a few more books to do. Barrett says, no problem. More than happy to. Been on a mental health journey this year and sharing most of that in my vlogs. Yes. So, John, if you go to Barrett's channel, you see the vlog playlist is really, really great in terms of processing and dealing with things in a healthy way and honest and fearless. So yeah, Barrett's one of our cheerleaders. May snag your idea and add book recs at some point. That is a good idea. Barrett, Laurie needs to sensitivity read my book to make sure LGBT characters are on point. All right. Love your writing. All right. We got some book love going on. Adrian says that snippet of the book was awesome. Definitely picking that one up. It's so good. She's so great. All right. So let me turn to the last grouping, which is AncientTBR. This is a hashtag if you want it. This just means books that have been around for a long time or have been around on my shelf for a long time that I'm trying to read and get rid of, read and pass on because I don't think I'll want to keep them to reread. So for some reason, this was on here, and this may get some confused looks. Gore Vidal, Perpetual War for Perpetual Peace, How We Got to Be So Hated. And if you, like me, think of Gore Vidal as someone who faced off with BB Jr. on like the 1960s and 70s TV shows, you're not alone. I thought that as well, but he was still alive after 2011. Sorry, 2001, 9/11. Came out weird. And he wrote about it. He was still writing into the 2000s. And so it was very strange for me to read someone with a liberal background from the 60s who's pretty purist about it and processing both extensively talking about the Oklahoma City bombing and what led to that and linking it to 9/11 in a way that is critiquing the government, especially the Bush administration of 2000, on their overreach and their, sacred goal and how they've let everything else down to get to this one goal, which is making rich people not pay taxes, and how that's led to people hating us around the world. So, I mean, some of it makes sense, obviously, but the puristness is a little strange, hitting me a little strange right now in 2022. And I wonder what Gore Vidal would think about life in the US today. Also, what was the other thing I was going to say about this? Oh, yes, the context. So, I am not a scholar of Gore Vidal. I've only read one of his novels, 1876, which if I have in a book roundup, I'll put up there. And so this is my first nonfiction of his, basically newspaper articles, editorials. And he's a super snob, like super, super snob. And so there's a lot that I don't get. It's sort of like its own coded language that I'm missing context for. So I don't know. I'm not going to go search it out because I think we've passed that time and we have more urgent concerns. But I'll just give you a page to give you a flavor of this one, which is interesting. This is called The New Theocrats, this article. It's just the beginning paragraph. June 18th, 1997, proved to be yet another day that will live in infamy in the history. Oh, he's also very funny, but I don't think I'm getting all the humor, so this is part of it. The history of the Wall Street Journal, or TWMIP, the world's most important publication, as it bills itself, blissfully unaware of just how unknown this cheery neo-fascist paper is to the majority of Americans, not to mention those many billions who dwell in darkness where the sulphurous flashes of Wall Street's little paper are no more than marsh gas from the distant marches of the loony empire. So I did like some of the writing in here, even though I could realize that I didn't understand all the contexts. Marsh gas. That made me laugh. What else do we have? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go to A Fighting Chance, which I should have a picture of. This is Elizabeth Warren's book, and this is on my AncientTBR because I had the book on CD to listen to in my car, which meant that my parents got it a long time ago, and I have had it in my car for several years, and I just don't go on that many long trips. So I waited until I drove down to California and finally got through this, and it was really good. I don't often listen to biographies or politicians' biographies, especially, but I like Elizabeth Warren's policy solutions and her fighting attitude. So Fighting Chance sounded like a good book to pick up a couple months ago. And let's see, her law teaching background and bankruptcy expertise was featured highly in this memoir. And that was a surprise to me. I didn't know what her background was in terms of why she was fighting banks. I just knew that that was the vague, like, association, but turns out she became a lawyer as a young mother and then became a law professor at Harvard as a remarried mother. She goes into some of the personal life stuff too, which is interesting. And yeah, she talks about basically 3 campaigns that she was on, and it's not political campaigns. It's campaigns to fight horrible policy choices or get an agency up and running. And, you know, these are things that I'd heard of when they were happening in like 2009, 2011, when I was there in DC. And yeah, it was interesting to hear the back room talk about it and what it was meant to do and how it would actually work. And, you know, it's neat to hear someone so smart talking about the process as it was happening. And unfortunately, I'm sure it's all, I believe the technical term is shot to shit at this point, but, you know, this was written in 2014. So there you go. I got to hear about her Oklahoma roots, which I thought was great. I got to hear her explanation of her Native family legacy or roots, or, you know, whatever was blown up into her nickname by the stupid guy that I don't want to name. And I thought she handled it very well and diplomatically. And yeah, so I'll just say that. So she's a straight shooter, which is not a surprise to me. And I think she has a lot of what we need now in the US, which is getting stuff done. And I really wish that like 2 people would also get shot to shit so that we could get some stuff done. That's just my July wish upon a star. All right. So then the last, nope, I've got 2 more. AncientTBR picks. Let's see, what do we have here? The most important whatever. Yeah, Allison's laughing. Exactly. Oh, I skipped some. It said 5, and then there's like a whole bunch more. Okay. Let's see. My fave Pride read for the month of June was Confessions of the Fox by Jordy Rosenberg. Historical fox? History of the fox. Super creative. I don't know. Okay, you'll have to tell me about this one. That sounds really cool. And since I'm on a fox kick after Fox and I, yes. JC chiming in that the Barrett's vlogs are amazing. Oh, Histfic. Okay, so Histfic, super creative. But you have a fox in there. Confessions of the Fox, but historical fiction. Okay. Do I have a future in reading audiobooks? I don't know. That is the first time I have gotten through 2 whole passages without stumbling once. So that was a good reading. Doesn't usually happen. Yeah, Jordy Rosenberg. Haven't heard of the author either. So thanks for mentioning that for all of us. We're saying some hellos. Catching up with people in the chat. Yep. Nick's readjusting back to the real world after a life-changing trip. Ricky and I supported Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, loved her policy papers. So wonky it tickled me. Yeah. I've never heard of her. Elizabeth Warren? Oh boy. Okay. So last two AncientTBR picks. One was actually not on my shelf for a long time. I'll save that for last. The one that was on my shelf for a long time is called The Soap Man, Lewis Harris and Lord Leverhulme by Roger Hutchinson. And I tabbed this up because this is my research pick for the day. And for everyone out there who doesn't know what this is about, which is everyone except Allison, The Soap Man, if you know the company Unilever, that is evolved from a guy, Lord Leverhulme, who used to just be, what's his first name? I can't remember what his name was. Before he was a lord, he was like, you know, a shopkeeper's son. And he started this vast soap empire. And eventually, in his golden years, he was an aged widower who thought, oh, I'll buy this island and make it an industrial Camelot, just like other socialist idealists are doing. And the island was Lewis. And then he expanded to Harris. And I'd heard of this tale, and I'd heard that they defied him, and so I thought this was going to be a great story. And in fact, his presence there was actually much more incidental to the island's fight for secure tenancy than I thought. So it was very informative. In case you don't know, the Isle of Lewis and the Isle of Harris, which are the same island, are off the Scottish west coast. So in the Hebrides, where I have set my historical fiction trilogy as well. So I haven't visited these, but I visited the one directly below, which was Uist and Barra. So very close. And so I have an affinity for this section of the world. And yeah, it's an interesting tone. Roger Hutchinson writes a book about a guy who is a dreamer, who has big ideas, who goes for things with full gusto, made a lot of things happen, wanted to better people's lives for sure, but wanted to tell them exactly how to live. Kind of like the guy outside Chicago, which I was researching for a different book. What's the place that was a model city, and then they went on strike, and then they did something very important for the railroads. Can anyone help me with this? Anyway, just south of Chicago, and now it's, I think, incorporated. But yeah, people who want to do good things for other people, but don't realize that people also want free will and agency and not to be chained to one place forever. And so that was what this author highlighted in terms of the people on Lewis. And I thought it was very interesting that the islanders were fighting for a long time, for like 60, 80 years, to stay where they had been for centuries. And he portrayed them as like the last indigenous people of Western Europe, because everyone else had been picked up and shuffled around because of the Industrial Revolution. These people were trying to stay on their crofts, their subsistence farms, basically, and had fought for their rights through Parliament, etc., for the 19th century. And he offers them this deal to become owners of the land, but they realize that that means that their former treaties as secure tenants won't be honored, and they'd be embarking on a new scheme, as the British would call it. And so they go, nope. The town, Stornoway, says yes, but the rest of the rural folks say, nope, thanks, dude, but no, we're sticking with what we won 20 years ago. And it's really like fascinating thinking about the character of people. And you know, this was early 20th century. What it would be like now. I think it calls for a visit, don't you? So yeah, so that was fascinating. Let's see. Barrett says, Fighting Chances of Goodreads, the classic book a senator writes ahead of running for president. Example, The Audacity of Hope, A Fighting Chance, Hard Choices. I would share conservative titles in that vein from the last 20 years, but they're all pretty fascist. So no, thank you. Thank you, Barrett. Yeah, this is the first one that I've read. So I was impressed, and it jived with my conception, and I don't need to read a whole bunch more, though, I think. Here we go. Oh, JC liked Nick's vlog today. Excellent. All right, last book. Fighting Chance. This is the classic that I picked up recently, and most people on BookTube will know this. 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. This was published in 1970, and it's a tiny book. It's a tiny, tiny book. So I didn't have a copy of it until very recently. I saw it and I picked it up because it was a whopping $5 at Phoenix Books in San Luis Obispo. It's a tale of real life. It's nonfiction. It's told in epistolary format because that's the whole story. It is actual letters that have been edited, of course, between a brassy New York City hoyden, I'll call her. She's fine. She's just got that New York City personality, let's say. Directly post-war, post-World War II, and a proper bookseller outfit that's been there for quite some time, I'm sure, in London. And what I love about this book is that it's ostensibly a woman in New York City who is writing to get books that she can't find there to London, to a bookshop that has put an advertisement in the paper that she's found. But what you see in their letters is the formality falling away and a real friendship forming, which is hard to do in real life. It's hard to exhibit in fiction as well. You have scenes, you have formality is one way of doing it, especially cross-culture, Anglo-American cultures. But just with a written word, because they didn't send telegrams, they didn't use the phone, starting from her sending packets of food for holidays because they were still under war rationing in London, to getting to know kids and planning a visit. It's very, very sweet, and it's true, which is like hard to believe that people would actually do these things. And so this is a hopeful book, which is why I've saved it for the end. I want to read it again. Again, it's very small. There's a surprise at the end, which makes it a little bittersweet, but so good. So good. So another 5-star recommend of the month. Yeah, love it, love it. It may inspire a story of mine. Who knows? So I'm finishing under the hour. Let me remind everyone what we're doing later today. That is my wrap up. Let me pop up the next thing in the chat. We scheduled this kind of close, but I'm going to be over on Vixen of Fiction's channel. That is Nia, and she's another historical fantasy author, and we're collaborating for Jane Austen July with Wednesday sprints. So on hers, it's sort of reading, writing, whatever you need. And on mine, we're featuring some flash fiction prompts that have to do with Jane Austen July. So I hope that appeals to some in the audience. And yeah, I'm excited. This is where I will be in 1 hour with Nia on her channel. So definitely tag that link for later today if you have the time, or come back and watch us later. I do that often. I'll go back to people who have done sprints and just sort of fast forward through the sprints and just watch the chat. So like comment, because I'm a dork that's, got time on her hands. So there we go. All right. Just finishing up here. Nick saying thank you. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to be watching Nick's vlog later. Barrett got a work call. Thank you for coming to his TED Talk. Yep, got to answer the man. We're talking about Nick's vlog again. Got to pay bills. Yep, there. You need more Margaret? Well, go on over to Nia's channel in 1 hour. Take a break, get some lunch, hydrate in your fancy English bone china mug if you would like. Or if you have COVID, stay reclined and just sip that straw. Stay hydrated, Richard. But either way, we'll be getting some stuff done over on Nia's channel at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there. Hope you found some books that you'd love to read. If you read any of these and have a different opinion, let me know. Or if you read any of the 5 stars and love them, also please let me know, because I love spreading the good word on books. So that is us today. Thank you for joining. Lots of stuff down in the description to check out if you're interested. And it was just lovely hanging out and getting 2 readings right with no I was gonna say typos. No slips of the tongue. So yes, we're getting better. We're getting better. Well, I'll see you guys again soon at the Sundays on Streamyard or the karaoke or in Nia's channel in 1 hour. Thanks for coming by. Enjoy reading and stay safe. I'll talk to you guys soon.